Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel dedicated to helping you earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. So today we're going to be talking about the real estate market and how the financial meltdown caused by the novel coronavirus might impact real estate prices. But before we get into that, if you enjoy educational content like this, please be sure to take 2 seconds and hit the like button down below. It's quick and it's easy, and it's a fantastic way to support channels like this and help them grow. So as everybody knows by now, the economy is in a meltdown. Unemployment rates have skyrocketed. Last week alone, about 4 million people filed for unemployment benefits. Nationwide, the US unemployment rate is hovering at roughly 15%. That's almost 5 times higher than what it was just a few short months ago. But what's really scary is that 4 million people are behind on their mortgages. Roughly 7% of all mortgages nationwide are in some sort of loan assistance program, some sort of forbearance program. 7% of all mortgages being behind on their payments. That is massive. And so it only makes sense that a lot of people are very worried about real estate prices going forward. If these people aren't able to catch up on their payments and eventually go into foreclosure, that is going to absolutely ruin the real estate market with this many foreclosures on the market. Now, depending on what your situation is, a real estate crash might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing. If you're trying to buy a home for the first time, then obviously prices going down would benefit you. But if you're an investor, if you already own your own property, then obviously you want prices to keep going up. Now, nobody can tell the future, nobody has a crystal ball, but I don't think that it's going to be anywhere near as bad as some people think. And here's why. First off, unlike 2008, 2009, this financial crisis is not caused inherently by the real estate industry. In 2008, lenders were giving out terrible loans. They were giving out loans to people that had absolutely no business getting a loan. I'm not joking when I say that you could be unemployed and homeless, but as long as you put on that loan application that you make $50,000 a year, they were going to approve you for the loan. They weren't checking your qualifications. They were just giving people loans. But here in 2020, those underlying financial problems do not exist. The only reason we're in a financial crisis is because we are in a health crisis and the global economy has suddenly come to a grinding halt. But the good news is that economies are slowly starting to open up again. And as more and more states get back to work and start rehiring people, once incomes start coming in again, then that's going to solve all of the financial problems. And the next thing I'll say on this, and this might be a polarizing statement, but I think the media is significantly overhyping the coronavirus and making it into a bigger thing than it should have ever been. I think people are scared of coronavirus for no other reason than the media is making it out to be a monster. In fact, the current CDC estimates, the Center for Disease Control, estimate that the best known estimate for the mortality rate if you catch the coronavirus is about 0.4%. Less than 1% of people that catch this will end up dying from this. And for reference, that's about twice as deadly as the common flu is. Now, obviously, this is highly adjusted for age and pre-existing health conditions and all of that. But if you're a young, relatively healthy individual, age 49 or less, the chances of you dying from coronavirus if you catch this disease is an estimated 1 in 2,000. So I don't think that it's anywhere near as deadly as it seems on the media. So as people get back to work, I think the economies are going to do much, much better. Now, obviously, it's terrible, each and every person that dies, but I think it is overhyped. But besides the coronavirus itself, I don't think that those 4 million people, that 7% of all mortgages that are in forbearance, I don't think that that's going to lead to a significant foreclosure rate. I think the vast majority of those people are going to get caught up on their payments eventually. And here's why I think that. So the first thing is the unemployment rate skyrocketed dramatically, very, very rapidly. And it takes time for people to process the unemployment claims as well as that extra $600 a month unemployment package that was implemented by the CARES Act that the White House approved. So because there was a delay in getting these unemployment benefits, there was a delay in people's income coming in. But now that that unemployment benefits has kicked in for the overwhelming majority of people, people are at least getting some money in every week. And so that's going to solve a lot of the financial problems right there. In fact, a lot of people are actually doing better on unemployment than they were previously when they were employed full time, at least if you were on sort of the lower end of the scale. So between the nationwide average unemployment benefits, which stands at about $378 a week, as well as the $600 a week extra by that CARES Act, that means people are getting roughly $1,000 a week, or about $51,000 annualized. That's more than the national median wage in the United States. And the second thing on this is when some sort of a terrible, life-altering event happens, people go into survival mode and they start hoarding anything that they think might help them get through this tough time. So people were hoarding masks and gloves, toilet paper, gun and ammo sales doubled over the previous few months. So people are stockpiling all kinds of supplies, trying to get them through this negative life event. And one thing that people are stockpiling for obvious reasons is money. And one good way to stockpile money is to simply stop paying your mortgage. I mean, think about it like this. The mortgage is typically the single largest expense that most Americans have. Usually it's about 33% of people's overall budget. So just by not paying this mortgage, people are able to save easily $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month by not paying their mortgage. And usually, not paying your bills is very bad. It hurts you in a lot of ways. But in this circumstance, with the forbearance programs, there is no penalty. Like, there's no penalties, there's no fees, there's no interest rate. It doesn't hurt your credit score. It's just, you just don't have to pay. So if you're trying to hoard money and make sure that you have enough money to pay for gas and food and medical expenses and all of that stuff, then not paying this mortgage is a good way to save some extra money in a worst case scenario that you might need this money for something else. So I don't have any hard details or statistics to prove my point, but I think at least some of those 4 million people that are in forbearance could have paid their mortgage if they had wanted to, but it was just more convenient and better to hoard their money and not pay these bills immediately and simply go into this forbearance program. I know I don't struggle on a month-to-month basis. I have more than enough to cover my bills, but I looked into forbearance myself because it's just a smart thing to do. And the last thing that I'll say as far as why I don't think real estate prices are going to drop by any significant amount is that ultimately there's only one factor that affects home prices, and that's days on market. So if my neighbor over here sold his house last week for $200,000 and he got a full price offer within the first week of that house being on the market, then I'm not going to list my house for $170,000 if he got $200,000 in the first week. Like, there's no reason for me to take a discount. I don't care what the unemployment rate is. If somebody was willing to pay it, then that's what I want. In fact, if he got a price that fast, I'm going to market my house for $210,000 and see what happens. It's only after a house sits on the market for 2, 3, 4, 6 months, etc., and people start to get desperate, do they start to lower their asking price. And currently home sales are extremely strong in places like San Francisco, which is one of the chronic places that everybody says, prices are always going to fall because it's too expensive to begin with. Well, the competition rating, according to Redfin, is off the charts. It's in the 90s. This means your average house that's sold is sold very, very quickly, and it's going to have multiple offers, often for even more than the asking price. A bidding war starts, and the price keeps going up on these properties. And since the current demand for properties is still very high and the economies are starting to open up, houses just aren't sitting on the market long enough for sellers to get worried and get distressed and start lowering their asking price. So I think in a worst case situation, I think home prices are still going to trend upward over the next year or two. They might start to slow down a little bit as opposed to what they have previously in the last 10 years or so. They may not get that sort of appreciation, but I think we're still going to see a positive upward trend in the near future. So that's going to wrap it up for us today, folks, why I don't think there's going to be a real estate crash here in 2020 or 2021. If you found this video useful, as always, be sure to hit the like button down below, consider subscribing, and as always, I'll see you all again next time. Thanks.